Hi, Aaron. Hi, Austin. Just getting ready to get this started here in a couple minutes. I have a pile of questions, so I'm hoping we can get through them all. Hey, Logan. Get you on. I'm on TikTok. Hope everybody's having a good evening. Yeah, I hope Logan minds his manners today so I can post this on YouTube because people are asking if I can post it later, so let's hope we can keep it going.
Yeah, I got no guarantees on that, but I'll do my best.
I still can't figure out what you said last time.
Yeah, I don't either. I just take it for what it is, I guess.
Yeah, something red flagged it. I guess it doesn't matter now. I've got Matt coming on, but he said he was on the way back from a customer about a bull. So I think he ended up working tonight a little bit. So hopefully he'll get on. He's gonna try when he's got service. I see Jonathan's on, I think.
Yeah, can you hear me?
Yeah, I got you. How are you this evening?
Good. How you doing?
I'm pretty good.
What's going on, Logan?
Oh, not too much.
My husband walked in. What's up, Leroy? It's 7. Nice job following my TikToks, bro. Yeah.
Okay.
Well, it's 7, so Leroy, it's 7. So I don't know if you guys want to get started and maybe introduce yourselves a little bit and kind of tell people about your background and what you do, and then maybe Matt will get on by then. If not, we'll just kind of get started and he can jump in where we are at.
Okay.
You want to go first, Jonathan?
Sure. For those of y'all who don't know me, my name is Jonathan Tipton. I was born into the Beefmaster cattle business, so I've been doing it my entire life. We raise cattle in Hallettsville, Texas, which is halfway between Houston and San Antonio on I-10, about 10 minutes south of that. I got an animal science degree from Sam Houston State University, where I learned how to AI going to college, and many different things like that. So, but yeah, I mean, Beefmaster cattle is all I know. It's my passion, and it's what I feel like I'm meant to do. So, and now, our biggest mission in our Beefmaster program is to sell Beefmaster bulls across the country, and with commercial cattlemen being our main audience. I'm involved with a bull co-op called Beef on Forage, and we have 3 different sales every year. We have one sale that's in October, which is our kind of big Super Bowl type bull sale, where we bring our very best bulls. In September, we have a sale in Arcadia, Florida, which mainly caters to our biggest group of commercial customers in Florida. And then in March, which is actually going to be next weekend, we have a sale in McAlester, Oklahoma. But yeah, I mean, we sell bulls all across the Southeast, especially South Florida, or Florida in general. We sell bulls in Minnesota, California, Nevada, all across the North and all across the Midwest. But the Southeast is especially where we uh, sell our bulls. Hold on, I'm trying to do my camera here. Okay. But yeah, that's mainly the rough story about me.
Perfect. Matt, I sent you an invite, so you may have to click on something. It says you're on, but I don't see you.
Shows that I'm on this end. I don't know if anybody else can see or hear me.
Yeah, I can see him.
No. You can see him, so I can't
Yeah,
see him. Oh, he's like a
I got
goat.
special powers though.
You are special. So if everybody else could see him, we'll just let it go then. Logan, or actually let's do Matt first because he hasn't been on one of my lives yet. So Matt, why don't you tell us about yourself, about your program, just kind of give people a background about who you are.
Okay, so I was born in Southwest North Dakota. I'd be the third generation to be on the ranch. My dad's still here working with me. I'm relatively small in the scheme of things in terms of my numbers at this point as it sits. But I've been raising registered Hereford cattle my whole life. My grandpa started the Stroh Hereford Ranch back in 1950. He started with Herefords because back when he was in 4-H, he was showing shorthorn steers because my great grandpa actually owned an international dealership, and he'd show these shorthorn steers and get his butt absolutely kicked every time by Hereford steers. So he saved up and kind of got started running a couple of Hereford cows when he was a kid, and then when he got older and was able to go out on his own, he decided he didn't want to work on equipment all day every day. He'd rather run cows and go about it that way. And he started Stroh Hereford Ranch from there. He actually did buy some of his foundation stock from my great grandpa on my mom's side of the family, who had one of the first registered herds of Hereford cattle in the state of North Dakota. Um, our deal is pretty simple. We like to raise functional ranch type bulls to go out and cover cows. I had been on here a little earlier, but we decided to take a group of cattle down into the into the Badlands just north of here, and got a little long winded on the visiting with the customer. But we raise all of our bulls over to 2 years old. We grow them slower when they're yearlings, so they can get some frame on them. Kick them out on the native grass, and usually the first part of June, depending on what conditions are like, and if we got all the cows where we need them to, because we try to keep them close to the house if possible. Um, and then we uh, rough them out there. They get a little bit of cake, and once in a while I'll take some fly tubs out there, depending on what the flies are doing. Then we'll usually corral them about the first part of September to the middle part, and start working them up on to about a 3 to 3.5 pound average daily gain, just to get them in shape for the sale. Usually try to market anywhere from 45 to 55 2-year-old bulls every year. Um, like to make sure they're good and sound on their feet. We try to have a good jig of our bulls qualify for the Premium Red Baldy program, the Maternal Advantage program, or the Certified Hereford Beef program, or Greater Omaha 1881 beef program, so our customers can get a little bit more value added to their calves when they go to sell, whether they're selling blue ribbon heifers or they're trying to sell their feeding cattle. Um, Me personally, I graduated from high school in 2016. Went to Bismarck State College. Got a degree in farm and ranch management. I graduated from there in the spring of 2018, and then I rolled into. I came home right away, and I wasn't really sure what I wanted to do. There were people trying to push me to go into the 4-year college route, or get going and ranching right away. And I always knew I did want to ranch, but I also saw how much my folks struggled over the years, and there have been times where my dad worked off the place to make it work back when I was younger, and he was just starting out in the scheme of things, and I figured it'd probably be pretty pertinent to go and get some further education. So I actually went to the Western College of Auctioneering and got a certificate and everything, so I'm licensed auctioneer in the state of North Dakota. And yeah, I've been at home full time ever since. And there are days where you love it, and then there are days like we got last spring during them blizzards. You're sitting there scratching your head, going, "I think an office job would be really nice today." So that's my kind of the rundown on me.
Yeah, I remember the blizzards. I think I've complained on them on every live actually. They suck. Um, Logan, why don't you just go ahead and we probably have different people in here. Just introduce yourself and tell us about your program.
Yeah, I'm the third generation and registered Angus here in South Dakota. So it started back in the mid 50s with my grandpa, and he ran Herefords before then, and then we had a spring blizzard, and the cows got their chapped their teats and wouldn't let their calves suck, and so that's when he started looking into the Angus, and and then he started building that, and we've been going ever since. So this March or 28th we'll have our 49th annual sale in the place. We're not a huge operation. We're going to sell like 85 bulls, and then we market about 30 or 40 after the sale as well, on like a private treaty or lease option deal. So not a huge operation, but third generation, and me and my brother are back, and yeah, just try to raise good cattle for everyone and do the best we can. That's pretty much it.
Sounds good. Okay, guys, you want me to hit you with the hard questions first, or do you want me to snowball us into it?
Baptize us by fire.
Okay.
Yeah.
So I don't know if people can see us, but my son popped in. He's watching the live with us. So if you hear a little kid, it's mine. All right, EPDs. Let's just start this off really basic for people that have no experience with them. Like start small and just work your way up, and just give us kind of a rundown on like beginners for reading EPDs and people that are a little bit more advanced, or if you don't know much about EPDs and you go to a bull sale, what's the basic things you kind of want to look for to just get you a start?
Basically, with EPDs are a tool for comparison. Basically, you're comparing one animal against another animal, or you're comparing that animal against a breed average. And so, like I posted in my video the other day, let's say you have Bull A has a winning weight EPD of 50, Bull B has a winning weight EPD of 25. On average, basically what that means is that Bull A his calves will average 25 pounds heavier than Bull B. But like I said, it's an average. Not every single calf is going to be that way. EPDs are a probability and not a guarantee. And so, and then when you have EPD graphs like on the database, that is comparing that bull against the breed averages. And so that's based. EPDs differentiate based on with each breed, like Angus and Herefords and Beefmasters, they're all going to have different breed averages, so the numbers are going to look different. The EPDs are, from my understanding, have a lot to do with if you're a seed stock person. You can compare. There's a formula where you can compare different breeds together. I don't really know off the top of my head what that equation is, but more or less that's what that is. And so, not just looking at EPDs, you have what's called ratios, and ratios are what influence EPDs. And ratios happen when you have a contemporary group, um, you know, with the number 100 being the average, so to speak. And then the more animals that you have within that contemporary group, the wider that ratio window gets. And so the higher above 100, the better. And so if you have an animal that tops that contemporary group, let's say he has a ratio of 120, his EPD is going to influence based off of that. Now, if you have an animal that's poor doing and has a ratio of, 70, he's going to have a poor EPD based on that information. And so, I mean, from my understanding, that's basically what that means. And also, there's a lot of people don't. Some people don't like EPDs because they say that it can be skewed, which obviously it can happen, but it's not hard to figure out who those people are because they will generally have numbers that are kind of too good to be true.
Yeah. Another thing, like with your EPDs that do need to be taken into consideration is the area of the country where you run your cow herd in.
Mm-hmm.
So if you're running cows down in Iowa, and this is just a general rule of thumb, you're going to have more resources even if you're not putting a lot of uh, uh, extra inputs into those cattle per se, because there's more grass down there. Climate's a little bit more milder than it is in western North Dakota, and there's a little bit more abundant rainfall. So in the video I made, them cattle that milk heavier, uh, they'll tend to either be a one-hit wonder or they'll fall out by the time they're 5 or 6 because they're putting so much into their calf they're not able to rebreed at a point. I'm not saying that every cow is like that, but as a general rule of thumb, I've noticed in our cows where our milk numbers are higher, there's a little bit higher of a fallout rate from the time they're 1 to 5, and if they're around until they're 7 or 8, it's uh, not a rarity, but usually the ones that are sitting right around a 25 to 30 hold hold up better in our scenario in our system here. Um, and two, there are certain EPDs, like in the Hereford breed, we have a dry matter intake index, and that one is relatively accurate if there's an animal in the pedigree that has gone through a bull test and those numbers have been entered in to adjust the EPD accordingly. And I think that's a really pertinent one as we're moving forward, especially coming off the drought that we did over here in North Dakota. In parts of Montana are still in it. Are still in it as of now. I'm sure with all the snow they've been getting, that might sounds like it might break out there, but I think that's going to be a really pertinent one moving forward, because if you have cattle that are going to gain with less dry matter put through them, or at least gain with less dry matter put through them, they're going to be more efficient and they're going to be more effective to keep running. Um, but some of those EPDs take years to develop in terms of getting accuracy put in, even with the genomic, with data.
Well, because some EPDs, so you have EPDs that affect come to effect immediately. Then you have multi-generational EPDs. Like maternal calving ease, milking. So basically, what milking is, let's say you have a bull that his milk EPD will not modify, or the accuracy will not increase until his daughters have calves. When that bull's milking EPDs will modify based on his daughter's calves weaning weight. And so that's kind of what that does. And then so it's kind of the same thing like with maternal calving ease. It's based on how that daughter's calve easier. And so I mean, and I don't really so much focus on the multi-generational EPDs because those can be kind of contradicted. So like the ones that I mainly focus on with heifers, obviously birth weight and calving ease, but pretty universal. I focus on weaning weight, yearling weight, ribeye area, IMF, and then we have a terminal index, a maternal index. We also have a feed efficiency index, and an RFI index. I don't really focus as much on the RFI index. It's just kind of one of those things. If it's good in that, good. If not, oh well. But for the most part, those are the ones that I really focus on because, especially with carcass data is heavily influenced, or it's heavily hereditary.
Logan, what are your thoughts?
Well, I think these guys covered it very well. Yeah, obviously it's a tool that you can use, and like we've all said, it's just a tool. And so if you implement it in the right ways, it's going to help you a lot. And then if you're, I think on the consumer side of it, as long as you're using it to compare animals across the large group, I think you're gonna benefit from it. The way that I see EPDs and other numbers in general is when they're being sold to you, from not so much like the bull breeders, more so like the bull studs. I'm gonna single those guys out more. Because I feel like the majority of the bull breeders are, we got real life customers. We got to talk to them. We got to see them. So we gotta do the best job to raise the best cattle that we can. And the bull studs and stuff, they got to sell. That's their job. They're not actually producing cattle or any other product. So that's kind of where I see it as a tool, to compare cattle in a large span. And I like it for that, but I just always like to be careful when someone's trying to sell you something and they're focusing on, especially now with like you're talking to the indexes. There's it's been the Angus breed. I don't know how many. There's like 6 indexes now. I don't even look at them, but they'll, oh, this is the number one dollar M out of this bull, whatever. Like, that's single trait selection is the worst thing you can do. So I don't. If they're trying to
Absolutely.
tell you one thing, I just pretty much shut my ears. I don't know, but that's
But
my thought.
one thing I had an old cowboy tell me several years ago, when he was at our sale, he said at the end of the day, the EPDs can be just phenomenal, but I'm not going to look at that piece of paper every day, and I'm not going to be able to eat that piece of paper. If you can't stand the way the animal looks, just leave them sit.
Well, absolutely. And I mean, someone in the Beefmaster business told me something that makes a lot of sense. Um, when with cattle, sex sells, and what that means is, like you said, they have to look good. But they not only have to look good for aesthetic reasons, but they have to be sound and functional. They got bad feet, they're not going to travel well. If they can't walk right, they're not going to go out in the pasture and work, and they're not going to walk across the pasture to go get a drink. It's, they have to be functional, and they have to look the part as well.
Yeah, that's the
So,
same deal.
oh,
I had the one old breeder in Montana. That's what he told me. He goes, "We need less mathematicians, more cattle people." He goes, "The numbers are great, but at the end of the day, you still got to raise cattle, and we got to produce a product." So yeah,
Right.
absolutely, they got to be functional, and they got
so
to
if you're
at
gonna
least
go
look
to these
decent.
if you're gonna go to these sales, you should get there early. You should go walk around. You should look at these bulls. Like that's just as important as getting that piece of paper and circling the ones you like and just sitting in the ring. You should actually be going out there and getting your eyes on these bulls.
Yep.
Absolutely. Absolutely. I mean, the way, like, if I'm going to buy a bull, what I like is, uh, like, especially with your seed stock operations, they put out bull videos weeks prior to the sale, and so I'll look through the videos first, and I will you know mark down the ones that I like, and then based on that, I'll then look at the papers and look at the numbers, see which ones I like and don't like, and kind of narrow down my list that way. Um, it's all a selection process, and you have to take every aspect of it into account.
Yep. Like when we're looking to get a bull, if I go to the sale out, or even my dad, he's a better example of it. We buy a lot of cattle out in Montana, and he'll show up at the sale the day before the sale, and he'll look through them bulls with a fine tooth comb. He'll look through their mothers with a fine tooth comb. He'll look through half sisters with a fine tooth comb. And there might be 100 bulls in that sale, and he'll narrow it down to 3 or 4.
Mm-hmm.
The phenotype has to be there for us because, especially on the production side, a lot of our bulls will go out into Badlands or go out be breeding.
So another question for you is when you're sitting. Oh, I think we're losing Matt.
He's
Uh,
cutting out.
Yeah. So I'll just go ahead and go with the question. So when you're sitting at these sales and these bulls come in the ring and some of them are quiet and just easy going and others are fired up, is that something to take in consideration? Because you guys obviously all raise them, or is that just the stress of everything got to them and they kind of just mentally fell apart a little bit? Should people be
If I
concerned with that behavior?
if I can find something wrong with them, I will. I
Hmm.
want to find a reason why I shouldn't buy that bull.
Hmm.
Because you know, I mean, especially with Beefmasters, the breed was developed based on 6 essentials, and a disposition was one of them. I had a heifer that was in the trailer. So one of my bulls, got in a fight with the neighbor's bull, and I had to take him to the vet. And then so I had a couple animals along for the ride, and this heifer was in that ride with him because she kept getting in my oat pasture that wasn't ready. So I went to take her to the other place, and so she was in that pasture, and so we had to unload her and reload her at the vet. And at the vet, she was just going berserk. She tried to run me over. If I didn't hop up on that fence, she would have killed me. And so I said, okay, I don't give a shit what's going. Like, 'cause I expected her to be heavy bred, but she was trying to kill me. I said, okay, you're going to the damn sale barn. And so I took her to the sale barn. I told him to palpate her. Turns out whenever she went to the ring, she was open, so may as well. But yeah, I have a zero policy for bad dispositions. It's, because I got my son with me, and if he's out in the pasture with me helping me, I'm not going to allow him to get hurt neither. And honestly, people get hurt too much. It's a liability whenever you have an animal with a bad disposition. Um, there's some people, like, especially commercial people, that are like, oh, I like them a little bit snorty. And there's a common misconception that just because they're a little high-headed, that makes them good mothers. That is 100% false. That I've had great mothers that eat cubes out of the palm of my hand. But yeah, I mean, disposition is absolutely something that is taken into account.
Yeah, uh, anybody who's ever seen any of I'm I'm definitely built for power, not for speed, and I don't want to use whatever brief moments of athleticism I have left running up
Right.
the now.
Right. We're not raising bucking bulls.
So, well, and even if you go to Chad Berger's place and you look at his bucking bulls, they're calm. They'll eat cake out of your hand.
Yeah. Right.
Having isn't a necessity or isn't profitable.
It's
Simply
not.
the fact that that cow, even as a seed stock producer, if you got some rank cows, unless it's that SAV Abigail cow that has 1.5 million in progeny sales or higher, I forget what the number is more than likely not going to be able to cover the hospital bills and the bills from the time that you're laid up. I don't like wild cattle. I never have. Um, that's just me. I can't stand to see wild cattle. Especially in the case where our customer base is young families themselves, or it's grandparents who will watch the kids to help the grandkids out to help their kids out. I'd rather hang my hat on having a tame bull than hang my hat on having a wild bull. Or
Well, and another thing is disposition affects how an animal grades on the hook. If they're all flighty and high-headed, it's going to affect how they grade, because marbling is a luxury trait, and that's one of the first fats that they burn whenever they burn energy.
I
Yeah,
didn't know that.
if you've ever had loaded cattle and you had one get worked up and you see a dark cutter on the sheet, that's probably what it was. Yeah, but you can tell a lot of that if you get there early, you walk the pens, you can see their personality. If you watch the videos, a lot of times you can see their personality, you know, just yeah, little things like that. Or in the ring, I have seen times where you get a real calm one and they go in the ring and they act up. Well, then that's in there somewhere. It's back in their pedigree somewhere, and at some point it might come out. So you got to be
And
you got to be careful.
and a good disposition definitely helps sell your animal. Um, Last year, I had a bull that graded at lot 20 out of 400 bulls. The sale got cut down to about 120 bulls. He graded in the top 20, and I put my 11-year-old son in there, and I said, from now, like I said, like we get there at 8 o'clock, the sale starts at noon. I said, from now until noon, I want you brushing on that bull. And that helped him sell. That bull sold for 22,500.
It's
And then
crazy.
the year before that, I had another bull that was super calm. He was graded as lot 11. My son did the same thing, and he sold for 11,000. So a good disposition will definitely make you money, and a bad disposition will definitely make you lose money.
That makes sense. So, um, the EPDs, why do different breeds have different EPDs? Is there a reason for it, or what? I mean, what's the answer on that question?
Different base genomes. So I'm gonna put a target on my back to get picked on by every other breed when I say this, but Herefords do not milk near as good as other breeds. Is that necessarily a thing that's gonna knock them back in terms of the commercial cow calf sector? Absolutely not. We've done a lot with the breed in the last 30 years. But with that being said, if you run up a 1,200-pound Angus cow next to a 1,200-pound Hereford cow, that Angus cow is going to be able to milk heavier. I can't talk too much on the beef master side of things, but genetics are different, and each breed of cattle has their place in the industry, and each breed brings something different to the table in terms of maternal carcass or growth or whatever. That's the best way to explain it. Now, like the AHA, they switched over to the Bolt system, so now they're on the same one as the American Red Angus Association, and I do believe the Simmental Association is on it. Um, so there is a little bit more unity in the systems that associations are using to make it easier for people to figure out. But in the general scheme of things, different breed of cattle do different things, have more emphasis on other traits than another breed might.
Yeah, for a while, I mean, I think it was a few years back, we used to have the Australian system, which now we don't anymore. I mean, I think we use the same system as mostly everybody else, but yeah, I mean, the Beefmaster breed used to use the Australian system.
That makes sense then. Okay, so we're at the bull sale and they bring heifers through. What are the benefits for commercial guys just to maybe spend a little bit money on these better bred heifers, or is that something that maybe might not benefit them as much as you think?
I
It'll
think that, oh, go ahead.
it depends on their program and what they're trying to do. Best scenario I can come up with is your commercial cow calf producer. You like running Angus cows, but you like them baldy calves, and you don't want to deal with Angus bulls, and you want to run Herefords. Uh, the thing is if they're coming off like Logan's place, let's say he sells 200 head a year of bred Angus heifers that are going to calve at a later date than they calve. Uh, if they come off the registered person's place themselves, they can pretty well be guaranteed that they are that breed. There's nothing else in it versus where you go to the sale ring and a lot of times when a set of black-hided cattle come through, they go, oh, they're Angus. And there might be some Simmental in there somewhere, some Solaire in there somewhere. And then what that does is if you're going to crossbreed with, whatever breed, you're not going to get a true F1 out of the scenario if there's another breed in the mix versus where it's verified off a place, a feedstock producer place out of their commercial herd, or they just put some stuff that could have been registered through there, but they decided to sell them as commercials or whatever. They'll there's verification there that they are what they say they are. I know there's other seed stock producers who let their customers sell heifers through their sales. There again, um, most times those calves have to be sired by bulls off that place, and uh, it just helps with some verification, uniformity, and predictability. Not saying you can't get that out of a general sale barn bought out. As a general rule of thumb, it's more consistent when you're purchasing through a stock producer.
Right. And so in our bull sales, we sell heifers too. But a lot of the heifers that we sell go to other seed stock producers. Most of our commercial customers, they buy our bulls to produce replacement females in their herds. And then with those females, they put terminal uh, breed bulls on top of those females to send to the packer or to feedlot or wherever they take them.
So like on ours, yeah, like he said, everything that we sell like on our sale, yeah, they're registerable. So we got seed stock producers that buy, and then but also we got some commercial guys that'll come and they'll run with the registered guys, and they'll do it to one. Sometimes they'll AI or use our bulls or some other bulls to raise their own bulls to raise their own and some of them will sell them or some will just use them in their own herd, figuring that they can raise them cheaper than they can buy them. Um, but but yeah, it's the quality. You know what you're going to get, but yeah, the problem is you're going to have to pay more for them, and that's it's you know like the guy that bought quite a few of the ones off our sale last year. He said, I just want to raise good cows. I can AI them the first time. I'll sell a couple bull calves out of them, and I'll pretty much pay for them, and then I'll have high quality cows. And he goes, that's all I'm looking for. So, I mean, it's if that's something you're going for, it's an option.
That makes sense. Okay, since we're talking about kind of buying bulls and heifers, buyback programs, where if you buy bulls from a certain person, they buy your calves from. What are your guys' thoughts on those programs?
I think it's a good thing. Um, some of the places that kind of pioneered that deal, uh, the you got to spend quite a bit of money to get in on them places, but then to get on something worthwhile, you got to spend X amount of dollars more. Um, but it's a good thing. Not in my opinion. Uh, Seed stock producers, let's say they're buying them heifers back and trying to breed them heifers up and sell them, or steers or whatever it is, they're seeing firsthand how those genetics are working and holding up. And if they buy them rancher A and rancher B, they know what sire groups those guys bought out of, and they can adjust and move stuff around accordingly to make them better for the commercial cow calf operation. Because at the end of the day, this is a what I've kind of noticed in the seed stock world. There's the percentage of breeders where it seems like everybody goes to, or there's a lot of seed stock producers go to buy bulls from for themselves to help perpetuate their cow herd in the direction they want. But in terms of when you're raising bulls and you're at towards the mid level or even just getting out, if you're going to strictly rely on other seed stock producers, you're going to starve and you're not going to be able to pay your loans off and pay your notes. The commercial cow man needs to come first. And places like that even offer some type of feeder calf marketing. Uh, it, those guys like that, and they'll come back year after year because of it.
I know Heartbrand Beef, who's like the head honcho of the Akaushi cattle. They do a buyback program to where they'll buy the steers off of the people that have bought their bulls, but you need to DNA test them to verify that the calves are out of the bulls that they bought. But yeah, they have a buyback program. And then I don't know if 44 Farms does. Logan, you can correct me on that. Um,
Yeah, I feel like they do. They got a few different programs. And I had a bunch of notes written up, and then someone moved my notebook. That's why I went upstairs earlier when we started, but I can't find them now. So I had kind of written out a few things, and I was gonna compare to the one place that does it, and on their website they say you buy our bulls and we'll bid on your calves, and so with them, like, it's Shuffle Beam Farms out of Minnesota, and they, like, on this year's sale they sold 300 some bulls for like almost $10,000 average. So in the field man, that's in the Fort Pierre Livestock. I've talked to him about it. I say, how many calves does this guy buy? Is he making a difference in people's calves? He goes, well, I said, I've heard that he's really good at coming in second. Is he making anybody money? He goes, well, he's really good at coming in third, actually, a lot of times. So like I had it all scripted out where, if you're spending, I was just gonna say an average bull this year is probably $5,000-6,000. If you're spending $5,000 more, and if you get one more bid, if he does buy your calves and you get one more bid, and let's say they bring one more cent per pound. Are you getting paid for the warm and fuzzies of what I say? Oh, he bid on my calves, and kind of how I figured it out is, if you were buying, well, it was like 4 or 5 bulls a year, it was costing you about 18 grand to get the warm and fuzzies. Because if he's not paying above market, if they're not paying above market average, and they're having above average sale, you're not really getting it back. So in maybe I'm wrong, but that's how I see it. There's a few places around us that do it, and you pencil it out, and and obviously it works for them because their sale averages are unreal. But for like they're buying them at market price. They're not above market price. That's what they would have brought one if they hadn't bought them, they'd have brought one bid less. Most of the time 25 cents. So um, to me, a lot of times it doesn't pencil out, but I understand the demand for it, and there's value there. But um, I had it all written out, and I went upstairs and I looked for it and I can't find it. So I don't know. One of my kids moved my notebook. Not very nice, but that's what I think about. I think it's a nice deal, but um, I call it the warm and fuzzies. But
That makes sense. I know Leroy's got some family that does it, and I mean, I don't know all the numbers, but when I try to do them in my head, they don't add up in my mind. But like if I don't have the true numbers, and I sure wouldn't ask them for it, but we've talked about it a couple times, and we just can't figure out how that works. But okay, so another big question: spending on bulls. Like these people are asking, spending 10K on a bull, how does that pencil out?
I got this one. So,
I have
basically, let's say you take calves to sale barn and you average $700 per calf. All it takes is 15 calves to profit $500 of that cost. Um, and then so let's say you keep that bull for 3 to 5 years. I mean, after that, like I said, after those first 15 calves, you're good. I mean, aside not including those hidden costs, of course, but from the initial cost of the expense of that bull, all it takes is 15 calves.
so I got something that's probably a bit more in depth. So how I figure is you got to figure out how many years you're going to be able to run that bull. I did it on a 5 breeding season deal. It seems like a lot of our guys can run our bulls, 5 6 years or more. Um, so how I figure it is you go 5 years. First year, that bull's going to breed 20 or be exposed to 20 head to potentially breed. So there, and then I figure 25 head a year after that. Then I figure in an open rate of 5%, so that pulls you down to 114. Then you're gonna obviously not get 114 live calves come weaning time, when you figure in everything. So I figure right around there you're gonna get 111 marketable calves. And when I say marketable calves, I include heifers in on that deal because if you're treating this like a business, retaining those heifers, uh, you've got to get your opportunity cost in there. From there, I went and I figured North Dakota State has some really neat uh, analysis budgets. I went from there. I just went based on the numbers there. It's going to cost you. You're going to have at $1,000. You sell them calves there. Well, at that $1,000 average, you're going to have 89,000 and some change against raising them calves from the cows. Uh, then I figured, okay, you're going to have your $10,000 initial cost of owning the bull. I figured $2.50 a day to run the bull, plus you figure your salvage value of the bull in there, so that'll pull that salvage value from when you pound the bull out, so that'll bring you up to right around 12,000 for owning the bull. You take that, you subtract the 111,000 from there, that gives you the total profit from the bull, but obviously the total profit from that bull isn't completely tied to that bull per se. You've got I figure about a quarter of it is, so you take multiply that times 0.25, and that'll give you your total profit or your total loss on what bull. The beautiful part about that deal is it's a simple equation, and you can use it to and adjust it to what your scenario is. Most times, especially if you're retaining females, and that's the tough part, you're going to get money off that bull for years to come. You don't really know what you have until that bull's been had his head cut off for a few. So that's kind of my take on it. It's a little bit more in depth. People correct me on the math if they want to, but that's kind of how I did it. So total cost against running the cows, total cost of owning the bull subtracted from the total net income off calf sired by that bull, and then take and multiply that times 0.25, and that's your total either profit or your total loss on the bull.
Yeah, that's a lot more in depth than what I was planning to say because basically let's say you wean 600-pound calves every year in and year out, you're weaning and selling 600-pound calves. There's also the difference between, let's say, a $5,000 bull and a $10,000 bull. Obviously, $5,000, you're going to run them for 5 years. You need $1,000 a year to justify that. So if you're getting, let's say, 25 calves a year that you're selling, and if you can get 25 calves, if you can get about 2 to 3% increase in your weaning weight, that's all you. If you can get a 3% increase in your weaning weight, you're looking at. I had it all written down. This was in my notebook, so no, I can't do it. So basically, if you had a 2 or 3% increase in your weaning weight alone, you could justify that. And that's saying so like. That's why I like to say, well, like you gotta have longevity in your program. So if you have bulls that last longer, obviously you can pay more for them because they're gonna last. And sometimes you don't know, they get hurt, stupid things happen. But as an average, if you have a herd improver, weight improver, something that's going to give you females, you can pay for it. And it doesn't necessarily mean that you got to spend that kind of money to get that return either. I mean, there's a lot of growthy bulls out there that got 100-pound birth weight that nobody wants because they don't want to deal with a 100-pound birth weight. Well, that can give you a 2 to 3% increase on your weaning weight, versus a bull that you used 10 years ago for sure. So there's a lot of ways to figure it, and mine was pretty simple, but I'm not good at math in my head, and I don't have my sheet.
Those 100-pound birth weight bulls are the kind that you put on your mature cows.
Yeah.
But, I mean, really we only need to focus on calving ease and birth weight on heifers and first calf heifers. If a second calf cow can't easily calve, then she doesn't need to be in the herd anyways.
One thing I will say is a cow should be able to have 8 to 9% of her body weight when she calves.
Yeah.
Now, where you got a leg down or they're breech or they're backwards, but even a little 60-pound calf, if that happens, you're gonna run into it. Thing I've noticed about these people who like chasing that calving ease, they breed a lot of go out of them cattle in terms of when they actually get them into the feedlot, and those calves will end up in the feedlot for 2 months and some, and profitable to.
I tell people, heifer bulls are only applicable to heifers. You don't need to put them on cows, and you don't need to only run heifer bulls because, like you said, it'll affect those growth weight numbers.
Yeah, that's actually kind of interesting. So if we are shopping for a herd bull, not a heifer bull, a herd bull, and okay, let's say I'm new to cattle and I've got my herd put together and I'm going to go shop for a bull. How do I kind of start to decide where I'm going to first look for a bull? And then when I go out, what are some of the key things I should really keep in mind when I'm starting this journey of shopping for said bull?
Well, first thing is first, the last year's catalog doesn't necessarily mean the better. Uh, simple is better. Um, One thing I like to do is obviously if you're getting into it or you're just getting into it, you kind of got to get your ducks in a row and get the bull bought. But there's a lot of smaller producers out there that do have good cattle. Uh, you don't have to go to the big name brand guys. Let's say on the, I can talk a lot on the Hereford side. Let's say you like Coopers or you like Holdens or you like Ned and Jan Wards or Ryan Tops cattle. Well, you can start by going to the American Association website, and you can look through all sorts of different catalogs and find programs that are influenced by those programs. Um, that's one thing I will say. Just because it's a bull out of the big name program doesn't necessarily mean he's going to do you any better uh, than a bull out of the smaller program. But I will say this first and foremost: call and get to know the producer and see if the guy is a salesman or a cowman. If he's a cowman, it'll show. The answers will be clear, they'll be sweet, and they'll be more thought out. If they're salesmen, they hit you with them, boom, 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 right out the gate, and they're not really going to try and get a feel for what your program is and what you hope to do.
You guys got anything you want to add on?
Yeah, I agree with that. It's build a personal relationship with the place that you're working with. You're buying a program, and what are your goals? Basically, you gotta know what you're shooting for. It's kind of like talking to a financial advisor. You can't just say, well, I want to retire, but if you don't have a goal in mind, you can't really shoot for it. So like if you're just starting out and you're buying some cows or whatever, know what you want to do. If you want to retain females, do you know what's important to you, and then seek those things out. Find the program that fits you. Build a relationship with those people. And like he said, you can talk to us. Like nobody, no, like we'll never turn away customers. We don't ever like not want to talk to people. Like a lot of people feel like that, like, oh, that's a bother. Like, no, I love people coming and walking through our cows and walking through our bulls and stuff. Like that's fun for me. Like it's like showing off your daily work, and that's why we do this social media stuff. Is to show like it's like a way to like connect with people and show people their stuff, and like it's cool to us, and like that's what we want to do. So like yeah, and find people that have your back, and yeah, know what you want to do, and find the best fit for you, because there's tons of options out there. There really is, and like it's that will take you further than anything else, I think.
Yeah, and another thing is you have to understand what audience you want to sell to, and so um, the breeder or program that you want to affiliate yourself with goes hand in hand as to what group of audience you want to sell to.
All right, guys, let's jump into terminal bulls. So we have a terminal program. We do Charolais bulls on Red Angus and Black Angus cows. But what terminal crosses do you feel are good crosses? What terminal crosses do you kind of stay away from? So if I'm shopping for terminal, what path would you guys recommend?
Well, I can kind of I can talk this one comfortably. When I'm looking at it from a terminal aspect, you need to find a breed that doesn't have, and don't bite my head off for saying this, Logan, Angus in it. Um, if you're running Angus cows and you go and buy a Gelbvieh Balancer or Sam Angus Bull or a Solaire Optimizer, and I'm sure there's 10 other different ones I'm forgetting about. Uh, if you go buy a Sem Angus, let's say, and he's 50% Angus, 50% Sem, uh, all the heterosis was used up on that bull. Are you going to get some benefits from that? yes, you're going to get more frame size from the Simmental, but you're not going to get any advantage in heterosis versus where you take a Charolais, and it's going to be pretty darn evident if there's Angus in that Charolais just by the hide color. Uh, it's going to be pretty darn evident, and you're going to be able to weed out the ones that aren't pure. But when they are pure, it's a true first cross, and you get to take advantage of every little bit of heterosis there is in that. Um, so like the two breeds in that offer you the most bang for your buck in terms of heterosis are Herefords and Charolais when you're talking about running them over onto a black-hided cow. Now, with that being said, I've got customers that'll take that run three herds essentially. They've got their straight Angus cows that get bred to Angus bulls. Then they got their straight Angus cows that get bred to Hereford bulls. They retain a portion of them F1 Baldy females. They obviously get bred to an Angus heifer bull their first go around. But then after that, they go by the biggest, stoutest, most high performing Charolais bulls, and they maximize their heterosis through a true three-way cross.
Yeah, one of my favorite crosses with Beefmasters is I like Charolais bulls on Beefmaster cows. Those work really well. Um, my only complaint would be is how will they grade on the hook? They grow real quick and they yield well, but I'm not so sure that they grade well. And so because of that standpoint, I also do like Angus on Beefmaster too, red or black. Um, they especially those from experience that make good recips too.
Logan, you want to talk about Angus now? We're gonna let you.
Oh, I was gonna be real nice about this, but now we're just gonna go. The only thing to do is to use Angus, Angus, Angus. No, well, I mean, there's a lot of options out there. I mean, I know guys that like to put key on their stuff, or Scimitals, or Charlet. I mean, there's a lot of things. There's a lot of options out there. It's just really kind of what are you comfortable with and what do you like doing. And there's definitely Angus bulls that I would consider to be terminal. Like I've got one that we raised a few years back. If you want some semen on them, I'll sell them to you. Those are some big growthy cattle, but you don't want to keep the females out of them. I mean, they're just not any good. So I mean, it really worked in what's going to sell good for you. Are you feeding your calves out, or where you taking them to sale barn? Around here, a lot of our white-hided calves get docked. So keeping them black is almost better for up north. But it depends on your market and figure it out, shop around, and, know your sale barns, know what's wanted, I guess. And
I
um, so
I,
that's
I agree with you, Logan. I was visiting with Cowboy Cummins down there. He's in South Dakota, uh, South Central, I believe.
He
I've
thinks
heard,
he's from the better part of the Dakotas. He told me that.
well,
well, he's West River, so he's right.
Dakota should have been split at the river, not at the where it was. Um,
Gotcha.
anyway, he and I visited, and he said them Sem-Angus and them Sem-influenced calves down there will sell better than them Hereford F1 cross calves do, and up in like at Stockman's, there in Dickinson, them true F1 Baldy calves, they'll top the market every day of the week. You got to know your area and what them buyers are wanting.
Hmm. Yeah,
That
there's
Yeah.
in
that
our
that's
area, Charlotte cross calves are real popular. Angus cross calves, Brangus cross calves. Um, in terms of terminal crosses, that's pretty popular. I mean, of course, you got Beefmasters down here too that you see across the scale a lot. Of course, you got Brahman calves, but those don't do squat. But
one thing I'll say is I think Herefords do get overlooked for a terminal cross because
they do.
them F1 Baldy heifers, you could take them on a street corner and they could be green as green gets, and you could still get $1,000 pop for them. And not only that, when you're buying, when you do retain those females and you cross them back on a Black Angus bull again, or if uh, you're not getting any advantage of the heterosis unless you're injecting, a another breed. So I think I really do think them guys that are using Hereford bulls, they could, buy a bigger slug of them and capitalize on them blue ribbon heifer markets, and uh, turn around and buy breds, and then you're not having to feed out a set of calves and lose some money on the deal. Figuring in whatever your feed prices are, or this or that, and not only that, it's just less headache. You're not having to feed a set of heifers all winter. You're not having to go and get them bangs vaccinated. You're not having to worry about health. You can sell all them F1 baldies right off the cow, or keep them and feed them for a couple of months and get them bangs and haul them into blue ribbon heifer sale, or if there's a producer that'll allow you to sell them through their sale, as long as they're all sired by their bulls, and get a premium for them and turn around and buy your replacement bred heifers as your replacements from a place that you know and trust. I think I really do think that's a market that's not getting hit as hard as it should be.
That's
Yeah,
that's
and
super. I'm gonna jump in real quick, Matt, because you're really onto something actually, or got my wheels turning. So I know the last few years I've sat in the sales barn and our steers sell good and our heifers don't sell worth a dang. The heifers really drag you down. I mean, this year they didn't, but the last 3 years they have. 'Cause I always tell my husband, we get done, if the heifers would just go for more. So I don't wonder, like you said, if you took those baldies and maybe you didn't get quite as much for the steers, but the heifers jumped up, if that's not more of a balanced pen of calves as far as price rise when things aren't crazy high to give you a better market both ways if you think about it kind of like that.
Well, I got one
um,
more option too out there. Is you got the Piedmontese guys. So the
uh,
Piedmontese guys, the Lone Creek, I know I don't like it either, but
uh,
those guys are buying back. They're buying back the heifer calves at steer price.
Cavigny's problem.
Oh, there are all kinds of problems. The one guy during these storms, he was trying to breed his cows, and the bulls were dying because
Yeah,
they don't take the cold for nothing. But that is but I don't recommend it or anything. But
right.
they buy the heifer calves back at steer price, which is kind of tempting. But I wouldn't tiptoe into
I
that
mean,
one
maybe
too
if you
much.
spay them, but spaying them seems expensive.
Well, no, the guy that and he's my cousin. He's got Piedmontese bulls, and they buy the heifer back. They weigh them all up, same price. They give them steer price.
Right.
I
What's real,
I
what's real, what's real popular across the southeast at least is like to get that black baldy is they do the Brangus on a Hereford, or an F1 Brayford Tiger Stripe with uh, an Angus bull. To get that touch of ear down in the southeast.
Yeah, on them baldy heifers, I guess all the guy really has to do, because they're a good set and there's reputation behind them. Them F1 baldy heifers will actually, in a lot of cases, as long as they're a program and there's good consistent quality behind them F1 baldy heifers will outsell straight Angus steers. I've seen it with my own eyes on more than one occasion. All you got to do is go through those northern sales or those superior sales every fall.
Mm.
But I'll be the first guy to say this: if you feel like you're making money doing what you're doing, don't change it.
If it ain't broke, don't fix it.
That's a good point. Everybody always tells us to get rid of our Charolais bulls. Like, I can't tell you how often people hammer my Charolais bulls, but they don't sell less than the other calves. I get the bulls make up for maybe what the cows lack, if that makes sense. Those bulls put so much more frame on those calves than what my cows can do, that they've just, and I mean, I've had guys tell me you can get that with Angus, and like, no offense, I can't afford that
You
Angus bull that
can't.
could do that, but I can afford that Char bull that can do that for me. So, and we're in a place that Char sell decent, But yeah, that's why we've stuck with the Stars. Like I was even kind of my husband and me were visiting, and he's like, "Why would we change it?" And I was like, "That's a good point." So you're right. Like if you're making money, don't change it.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah, and you can't hurt my feelings. My wife's Irish, and I hear everything that's under the book, so you can't hurt my feelings.
You guys are always picking on anybody that doesn't have egg. And plus, we're gonna pick on you because it's your second live with me, so I feel like I know you now, so you've become a target.
No, that's okay. Yeah, I'm ready.
just want
Perfect.
to get booted off again.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. I'm gonna throw a tantrum now, but
Okay. Balancer bulls, pros and cons, and I don't know anything about a balancer bull, so this was a question thrown in the comments right when we put this up. This is the first thing that popped up.
Well, I guess the pros and cons of a balancer bull is they basically look like an Angus without they look basically kind of like an Angus with a bit more frame, and on them Gilvey balancers especially, the best thing that happens there is they get rid of that big old ugly Gilvey head that they have. That's my opinion. Somebody might report me for saying that if they really love their Gilveys, but there are certain cattle that some of our neighbors have, and when I'm looking at them across the fence, and those calves are 2 months older than ours, and our and they're crossbred, and our purebred Herefords are bigger and thicker and stouter already, and it just leaves a lot to be desired. Now, do I know what caliber of bulls they're getting into? Absolutely not. But or what caliber they're getting into within the breed, I should say, absolutely not. But uh, you want something that's going to propel you forward and not backwards. There's pros there. You know, you're going to get a little bit more frame. They're going to be flashy, but like I said earlier, if it's a first cross or even a second or third cross, a lot of that heterosis advantage that you get is burnt up in the first initial cross, and until you get to be about 7/8, which a lot of breeds are calling purebred, uh, you're not going to see many many advantages in terms of the heterosis, because that's the whole point of crossbreeding, is to take advantage of that heterosis value.
What are your thoughts on them? Do you guys have them down there, Jonathan?
I mean, not too much. I mean, I don't really have an opinion just because that's so far out of my realm.
Hmm.
I'm the same way. I don't have much. I don't have much experience with them. I don't. I don't know. That's.
Yeah.
I'm gonna pass on this one.
Yeah, me
This
too.
one, this question in Rumensin, I'm gonna pass on.
Vincent. Yeah. So, somebody asked in the comment if they were looking to purchase a bull and they want it for longevity and something that's going to hold up and last, what are some key characteristics you would look for?
Fleshing
Yeah.
ability for sure. Fleshing ability and hardiness. They, and a part of that going into that is a kind of a moderate frame because when they have a little bit of a moderate frame to them, they require less input. On top of that, you got to make sure that they're very sound and functional. They got to have good feet to them. They got to walk well and things like that. Also, you got to understand their genetic background. How old is the mother? How old is the grandmother, etc. Stuff like that.
Um, I guess the first thing I'll say is when you're driving into the place, pay attention and see how many creep feeders they have. Um, I will say that because a lot of the things, and this is a big thing that goes against yearlings in my mind. They're asking those yearling bulls to do a lot. They've got to be sexually mature, and they need to be, of the proper length and weight to go out and cover cows. Um, and they have to put so much weight on them and have them looking mature enough and looking, fleshed up enough and showing that bull's genetic potential on what he should look like as a three and a half, 4-year-old bull when he's kind of done growing. Uh, that it damages the frame, and it'll either damage the frame or it'll damage the feet. Uh, Not saying that's the case with every yearling bull ever sold, but uh, that hurts some. And a big thing, I guess, I've gotten into discussions with a fellow seed stock producers with, and one of them keeps saying you can't feed sexual maturity onto an animal. Um, but the thing is people like to gravitate towards those bigger, stouter calves that carry more flesh at these sales, and uh, they want them to look a certain way, and sometimes that is detriment to the longevity of them animals. I will say this: I like to give my Angus friends crap about the feet issues they have, but I'll say this: the Angus breed did a damn good job of getting in front of it, developing an EPD, and getting the data collected to fix it. I will say that they did a good job. So you do have that. Their feet is a big thing. If their feet are skis and it looks like they need to be at Bridger Bowl and Montana skiing every day instead of out covering cows, that ain't a good thing. I will say this too. I've noticed this in our cows that have more longevity and they're breeding up where we want them to, calving consistently in that first cycle, bringing in a good 650 weight calf or heavier. Uh, I think that the structure of an animal is based upon its environment. I've noticed cows in our area that have a touch more angle to their hocks. It seems like they can get out and they can move easier. They can walk up and down the hills better. They maintain their flesh, and they're more athletic. I think you almost need to pay attention on what's going on in your cow herd and the cows that are sticking around and doing exactly what you want them to do year in and year out, and see how they're structured, and try and model the types of bulls you're buying after that, not only to create more of them type and kind of females, but to make sure that they're going to have the longevity you need. There's a lot of cattle in the countryside that I think would do better in other environments than where I'm at, and that's just my personal opinion.
I think if you're looking for bulls that have longevity, obviously, like these guys said, you gotta have the right structure. You gotta have feet and legs, and they gotta be able to stride. They gotta be able to walk, and you don't want them to be overly fat. So, like bulls we raise when we sell them as yearlings, we want them to be about 1,200 pound average, 12 and a half. So, I mean, you can see they're not pushing them too much, but they got maturity to them. They got, they're like we calve them basically in February, and guys aren't turning out till they're probably 14, 16 months old by the time most guys are turning out, so they're plenty old to go breed. What I like to look out for longevity is to look at the cow's production, because like some people give it and some people don't. Like in our catalog, we're selling the one bull. He's of a 14-year-old cow, and then a lot of other ones out of like 10, 11-year-old cows. So those ones, those cows, they ran out. They've experienced all of our winters. They've experienced the droughts we've had. They've experienced the good years we've had, and they've been able to produce calves through all those years. And if they don't give them to you, ask for them, because that stuff is readily available. Even calving interval, no one puts in their catalog. Very readily available, and I think very important. So I think you look at that, you look at the cow's production, and if you go in there and they look like that bull's ready to kill, because he's fat as a hog, they're not going to be long. They're not going to have longevity to them. That's just the way it is. I literally this week talked to one guy that bought a bull from me 8 years ago, and another one that bought a bull 7 years ago, and both of them go, I should probably get rid of that and get a new one. That it's something that's part of the program, and some places can do that, and some places are chasing the short-term goals. It'd be a lot better, honestly, thinking about it now, business-wise, that bulls that churn over every 3 years, because then I get more bulls sold. But if you have them long-term ones, I guess that's a good deal too.
Yeah, I was talking to a bull customer this year, and uh, I he last time he bought, I was just a kid. Heck, I'm still a kid, wet behind the ears. I'm reminded of that daily by some of our older neighbors. Um, but you know, back before I was really involved with it, I had my cows, I farted around with them type deal. But he bought a bull, and he had him out covering cows for 11 seasons.
That one paid for himself a couple
That
times.
type of longevity, obviously, is a is a big lo- is
Did
a
you want to add
there.
anything in there, Jonathan?
Uh, yeah, I mean, you know, it's important that you don't push bulls too hard. But if you do buy a bull that's a little conditioned when you buy them, it's important that you wean them off of that ration instead of just going from hot to cold. Going from getting fed to not being fed. Same goes like whenever you're putting feeder calves on feed, you got to warm them up. You can't just go from hot to cold. But management definitely plays a huge part in how the longevity of that animal. But understanding the genetic makeup of that bull, understanding that how old his mother is, how old his grandmother is, how many progeny those animals have, are they calving every year, and things of that nature.
Yeah, those are good things. I've some of that stuff I would have never thought to even call and ask about. Those were some good tips. So let's kind of move on about taking care of our bulls and kind of keeping them where they need to be. Um, what are your guys' tips or tricks, or what is your idea of keeping a bull in good condition on his off season to make sure he's prepared to go out and start working?
I don't really baby my bulls. I just pulled my bulls off, a few I don't know, a few weeks ago, and they got like a little 5 acre bull pasture. I got two bulls and one steer in that pasture. All they got's that grass. Occasionally, I might, like if it gets dry and they're kind of limited on that grass, I might put a hay bale out or something, and I'll probably put some loose mineral or something. But I won't feed them. I want them to work in the off season just like they got to work when they're breeding. They got to work in that pasture, and they got to maintain that condition. Otherwise, if I got to sit there and baby them, they're costing me money.
I agree with that. Up here where we can get below zero for months at a crack, we probably have to put a little bit better quality hay out with them a bit more consistently. And one thing I like to hammer home with people is make sure they are bedded. If you go buy that $10,000 bull, he ain't gonna do you a lick of good if he freezes up on you.
Hmm.
That make sure they've got plenty of bedding. Heck, even our sale bulls, I don't like using our bale processor when I'm bedding them because I'll go bed, you know, 25, 30 bulls with 2.5, 3 bales because I like getting it deep as it can get so that they've got more than enough. I mean, the only reason I think our manure hauler likes that is because he gets more loads at the end of the year. But uh, the deeper the bedding and the more consistently you bed them, especially once you get your pad initially built, the better off they're going to be at that. And before we kick our bulls out to start breeding, about a month ahead of time, we'll throw a 25 pearl flax lick tub with some different vitamins and minerals in there that'll help with semen quality. But outside of that, they got to be bulls. They get pulled off cows in the fall. We'll find a pasture that isn't next to cows, and they get kicked out there, and they have to go around and forage and maintain. But the winter months, we make sure that they get all the tools they need in the toolbox to do good. Um,
Yeah, I actually took a video of my bull Patriot yesterday. With him off of cows, and he's in pretty good condition. But I'll post a video of him on here later. But just to kind of show you how he looks coming off of cows, And you can kind of, in the pasture that he's in, that's what he's on, so you can kind of understand what he's working with coming off of those cows.
What we like to do is like the bulls that like the yearling bulls when we put them out, we put them with quite a few cows. So by the time we bring them in, most of the time they're worn down. So we'll bring them in and we'll grain them for like a month or two. Just give them a couple pounds of grain, just to get them back on the right track again. And then it's just hay. I mean, that's all we get. And then yeah, if it's gonna be cold, we'll throw them a little bedding out there for the old bulls. But seems like they don't need quite as much. You know, they got a little more body mass and stuff, and we don't. I don't have to do it quite as much, but we're also not in North Dakota, so we're not quite as cold as you guys are. You guys should move south or something.
Yeah, we should.
Yeah, I'm staying in South Texas.
Yeah.
I'm staying. I ain't going nowhere. Like
It's stupid up here right now. It's back to winter again. The weatherman actually said the sun is getting high, so the cold's gonna have to go away sooner or later. And I was like, that was the crappiest weather report ever. Just
hey,
ugh,
we got blue bonnets and wildflowers out right now, so I'm happy with that.
And
ugh.
we just hit a 100-year record for snow.
You
No,
guys
I'm
did?
good.
Yeah.
Y'all can
Uh,
keep it.
the
Yep.
center of Dakota's getting hammered right now.
Yeah, I think it's gonna miss us. So I'm happy. I'm not even gonna look outside. I'm happy right now.
Yeah. Ugh. Stupid winter.
Yeah,
I told my husband I'm gonna become a snowbird. He doesn't believe me.
I was in t-shirt and shorts outside and flip flops earlier.
So
We're gonna
I,
kick you off the live if you keep talking
Yeah.
like
I'm gonna report this to TikTok.
that. You're harassing people.
but I have become so accustomed to the cold, I've just thickened my hide up, and I'm refusing to acknowledge it's acting like winter again. I'm shorting just in a sweatshirt without gloves, like it's the middle of April.
Isn't that ridiculous? I've been running around town in a sweatshirt and I refuse to put a jacket on no matter how cold it is because I decided winter's over. I'm just done wintering.
One of my video ideas is just to kind of show all the wildflowers and bluebonnets and me rolling around the pasture and be like, look, I ain't got no snow. I'm thinking about it heavily.
That would be funny. So, okay, so in the snow, we need to better bulls down, but we still need to feed them like they're working, not baby them. Okay, so since we're bedding them down, Logan, what are we protecting on them? They're scrotums. So you were talking about scrotum size in one of your videos. Explain to us more why that's important and just dig into that topic.
Well, basically, I mean, that's your factory. So the more factory you got, the more you can produce, the more cows they can cover, the higher quality their semen is, pretty much. Obviously, you don't want to get too big because that can be a sign of damage or some other problem. But I mean, like on a yearling bull, if you can get, for us, if you can get a 36 to 44 centimeter scrotal, I mean, that's pretty much where you want to be. You get bigger or smaller, then you kind of get not where you want to be. I mean, you got to be out there breeding cows, so they got to have the capacity, and it takes them a while to make all that. It takes them a while to make it. So if they have some built-up storage, and then also then it's motility and everything else that goes with it. It's just and get more cows bred. That's their job.
And it's also important before and after the breeding season. Uh, you get them fertility tested, and if they've accidentally gone into the neighbors, you might want to get them trick tested too. But because that does happen. But for sure, every year before and after the breeding season, you want to get them fertility tested because if you have, I've seen situations where people have half their cows are open, okay, and then, well, actually, this was it was back when I was in high school. We bought a bull, uh, and we had probably half our cows came up open, and a bunch of them we took to the sale barn thinking that they were the problem. Well, we took the bull to the vet and got him fertility tested, and he was shooting blanks. So we rolled a bunch of good cows that we shouldn't have.
We're lucky we don't have to test for trick. Oh, there's a few cases every now and then, but it's like a trick up here is a rarity, so that's nice.
Yeah, well, I mean, if we're like it's mandatory if you sell bulls, at least in the Beefmaster breed, uh, it's mandatory that we trick test them before we sell them.
Oh, even virgin bulls?
Well, I mean,
Really?
it's just well, I mean, just as it's a precaution.
Sure, sure. Yeah, if you sell like I lease out bulls and then I'll sell them as like twos.
I
Those
mean,
have
if
to be tracked. Those have to be tricked by law, but otherwise, I mean, but there's like we don't have it up here quite as much.
yeah, well, I mean,
Luckily,
it's
luckily.
like private treaty have to, but we've always done it. Trick does happen, and I mean, we've never had it, thank God. But I've heard stories from friends that have, and it'll wipe out a whole herd. But um, just as a safety precaution, if you're selling them to Beefmaster sale, it is pretty mandatory that you get them trick tested.
Okay.
Yep. And then when you move bulls across state lines, if they're under 24 months of age, they do not have to be trick tested. But the second they hit 24 months of age, they all have to be trick tested. Um, we've run into that where it's taken a while. It just never can line up to get a guy as bulls, and it finally does. And you got to get them trick tested before that. And we actually own a bull with a breeder out in Montana, and he's got to get trick tested to come to North Dakota, and he's got to get trick tested to go back to Montana.
Okay, we just had a question. It says, am I wrong for wanting to breed everything with a low birth weight bull?
You're not wrong, but like I said earlier, low birth weight bulls are intended for heifers. If you breed, I mean, you shouldn't have to focus on low birth weights or calving aids on mature cows, uh, because, like I said, the if you over focus on low birth weights, you're going to sacrifice on growth weights. Uh, but yeah, I mean,
One thing
and of course,
I
you don't want to tolerate a super high birth weight either. I mean, across the board, you should focus on, on mature cows, anywhere in the 70s to mid 80s on the birth weights, and heifers, I mean, you can allow into the 60s. I don't like calves being born into the 50s because to me that's too small. 60s are a little small too. I like them in the 70s to mid 80s.
well, I'll put my 2 cents here in on this. I think one, you can go buy them little tapes. They give you a ballpark figure on what the weight is on that calf. It's within. We got a scale that we put on the back of our pickup, and we weigh every calf when it's born. But it's within 5-6 pounds usually of what that calf weighs. Uh, I think a lot of people would be surprised on what their calves are when they're born. Now, with that being said, you got to look at your scenario. If it's just you and you're calving out 100 head of cows and you have a job off the place, and yeah, you can take off time here and there and you're pretty flexible in your work schedule to calve them out, uh, but you're still not going to be there none of the time. You may want to lean towards something that's got a bit more calving ease. But a lot of guys fail to realize is they don't look at the shape of the bull. If you go buy a 80-pound birth weight bull and your cows are shaped like a square and you're like a triangle, they're going to have a tough time pushing them calves out. There's a lot of things that need to be taken into consideration. Now, I'm not saying that yeah, if you work off the place and yeah, you can come and go as you kind of need to an extent with your job. I'm not saying you need to go buy 65-pound birth weight bulls because I had a heifer. She weighed 97 pounds when she was born, and last spring she calved, and she gave me and she was bred to a bull that had about an 85 pound birth weight, and she calved, and I got a little 60-pound heifer calf out of the deal. Um, there's so much that goes into affecting birth weight, nutrition. If you're feeding a bunch of protein the last trimester that cow's carrying that calf, or just the fact that you know you might have bigger framier cows. They're gonna put a little bit more big and frame, a little bit more frame into the calf, and a little bit more frame into the calf correlates with heavier heavier birth weight. And not only that, a lot of guys fail to uh, take into consideration that the bull's only, I think, what was it, 30% of the equation on the actual birth weight of that animal, of that said calf. I read in Beef Magazine here a few years ago. And don't bite my head off if I'm wrong, but the cow carries more of a effect on the birth weight than the actual sire does.
My thought on it is if especially if you're using it on cows, if you go too far to the extreme light birth weight, you're giving up performance. So I'm a big believer on both extremes are probably bad on no matter what you're talking about. So on birth weight, if you get that middle, especially on cows, if you can give them a higher birth weight, there tends to be more performance at weaning. There's more frame, more bone, more everything to them. And then the people buying your calves, when the calves were being sold, if they're smaller, lighter frame calves, are typically going to bring less than something that's got a little more frame to them, a little more structure. So I feel like if you're using low birth weight, you might be giving up on some of that other stuff. But if you're okay with that, that's fine. Obviously, it's your own operation. But that's what I think about it. Our typical cows, we're looking at, I'd say 85 to 115-pound calves. I mean, and I don't, unless they're backwards or leg back or anything, I never have to touch them. I mean, that's just the way it is. So, and and that works for us. And maybe it works for you, maybe not, but you'll find the right thing. But I wouldn't say it's never wrong to think that, but it's there's options out there. That's all I think.
Those are some pretty good answers. Okay, so we're gonna jump off the bull thing just for a second because we had a heifer question pop up. They said, "What about early gestation and pelvic size in heifers you keep?"
I when I breed heifers, I like to breed them at 13 to 15 months old. I think that heifers should calve around their second birthday. Um, but yeah, and then pelvic areas. I mean, we don't measure pelvic areas, but I mean, you can just by looking at their conformation and phenotype, you can understand how if they're big or small hips. But I mean, I think it would only be beneficial if you did measure their pelvic area. I know one of the breeders in the Beefmaster breed does implement pelvic area measurements in the catalog when they have their sale. Um, you know, and pelvic area is important because um, I had one heifer that had a calf that calf died, because he couldn't even pull that calf out. He had to cut that calf up in order to pull it out. But pelvic area measurement does definitely play a part, but those heifers need to be mature enough to get bred at 13 to 15 months old and calve by their second birthday. I know a lot, it's pretty universal in a lot of breeders that like to wait until they're 18 months old to get them bred because they want to make sure they're big enough. Well, I mean, that's just more time that you're not, um, you're losing out on money because you're waiting until they're almost 3 years old by the time that they calve.
On the pelvic deal, it's a beneficial deal because you know how much area you got to work with to get that calf through. Um, that's the big deal. That's the biggest deal. If you and not only that, you can weed out cattle that you necessarily don't need to keep. I mean, a good rule of thumb is go and look and see how much width there is between their pins, but you really don't know until you get down to it and start doing some measurements.
I don't know if there's any direct correlation between between birth weight and actual pelvic size. I do know that if we're breeding like if you have like a light birth weight heifer, something that she was born light, or maybe like back in the generations, typically they have a smaller calf. It's the maternal calving ease. I don't know if there's a correlation between their pelvic size or not. We don't ever measure ours, so I don't know if that's a thing or not. But obviously, yeah, if you measure them, that gives you a lot of good information on what they're going to be capable to do.
Okay, we have a question. I might not be pronouncing this right, so bear with me. It says, do you guys genomic test your replacement?
Genomic enhanced. Okay, so what
Genomic.
basically genomic enhanced? Basically, what that means, you DNA test your animals. I DNA test everything that I'm going to register. If I'm to send it to the sale barn, I won't, just because to me it's a waste of money. Some breeders DNA test everything just to get 100% accuracy of information on their animals. But anything that I'm going to register, I will DNA test. But um, for our bull sales, it is mandatory that they're all DNA tested.
I'm on my cattle personally here in the next few years. I'm moving towards doing that genomic deal because basically what they go do is they go in and make sure they're not a carrier of any genetic defect that a breed may have. And then the next thing that they do is they can go and identify the markers that are present and actually being uh, having influence over that animal, and they can go and adjust the EPDs accordingly. And not only that, put accuracy on those numbers as well. Um, Personally, on the genomic deal, I think there are some guys who are getting away from taking it down actual data just in the namesake of, oh, when we wean, we can pull hairs off this calf, and it's going to be that much uh, easy, that much less work, and I think genomic is another tool in the toolbox, but you got to have the actual data present. An example is we bought a bull out of Canada, and we did everything right. We got him down here. We tested him to make sure he wasn't a carrier of any defects. Then we genomically enhanced his EPDs to get them more accurate, so we could know what to expect out of the calves. Um, that bull got pulled to being towards the bottom of our herd bull battery for his wean weight EPD, but his calves are consistently the heaviest or one of the heaviest sire groups that we have. So it's not narrowed down to a complete and exact science yet, simply for the fact that there's not the cattle genome is very, very wide. Even
Mm-hmm.
within the Herefords, you've got people who they've all got to be 100% homozygous old. You've got people they've got to be they've got to be 100% horned, and then it breaks down into two categories. They can either be line bred, which means they all initiate or came out of the main deal as the Fort Keogh and Miles City, but Cooper Herefords and Holden Herefords have been doing a lot of line breeding, and they got their start through there. Uh, and it's and it'll even break down to where some guys will only buy from one program or the other. They'll either buy from Miles City, they still sell some bulls. They'll buy from Coopers, or they'll buy from Holdens. And you know, the genome's very wide. And then on the flip side of that, you've got guys who are anti-line one to the core because they don't like either how the cattle look, or they can't wrap their mind around the fact that line breeding is beneficial in terms of the predictability and the consistency that you'll get across a calf crop. But not only that, if you take a line bred bull and cross them on a Canadian influenced cow, you're going to get a little bit of inbreed heterosis on that cross. But you've got guys who they got to be straight Canadian, and they can't have any line one in them whatsoever. So right there, that's three genomes that people are using right in within the breed. So the genomes aren't completely mapped yet, and don't think they're going to be completely mapped for a while until they get to be more and more DNA turned in, and they can map them and see what markers correlate with the actual performance, which ones correlate with calving ease and birth weight and carcass, and the whole nine.
We don't genetically test our replacement like heifers because a lot of what we're going for, I don't feel like there's any numbers that they can put on a piece of paper. So like we're going from, we're going from from what their mother produced, what their sire produced, and at the end of the day, like you said earlier, you can't eat a piece of paper. You can't make that piece of paper do anything. So we really don't. We just kind of go off their own production and stuff. We will do some of our bulls and stuff because people want that, but I don't. And there is value there, but uh, really for what I'm going for, a lot of that I don't feel like can be portrayed into a number, can't be condensed that way. So that's what I think. So we really don't do it that much. Um, that's
When I
also
when we do it, we only parent verify. We don't.
oh sure
Uh,
yeah.
but like on our herd bulls, we'll, I don't know, do the more intense version of it to where, like if you're going to use them as an AI sire or something.
Yeah, we normally do that on ours too, just so that yeah, then it clears them all the defects and all that stuff. But as far as like
Mm,
heifer replacements, um,
yeah,
we don't. I mean, we kind of know where everything's at. We pretty much most of our calves are AI'd anyway, so we know what they are and
Yep,
yeah.
their calving date. But
and a lot of people don't realize the cost of it. It's if you're going to
It's
do the test that'll clear them of everything and do the genomic and their numbers and the Hereford breed, and that is everything. It's $72 a head, and like anything, it's a business. You gotta sit back and go, am I going to see a high enough return off doing this? Because uh, when you're raising your bulls, you got the opportunity cost of steering them at birth, hauling them to the sale barn, and
mm,
uh, you know being done with them right off the cow, or even a couple months after the cow if you background them for a bit. Then you've got your advertising costs. You got your picture cost if you got to hire somebody to come in and take pictures if you're not handy enough with the camera. You got your videoing cost, your auctioneer cost. If you go the route of an auctioneer, it all adds up. A lot of guys, they'll see that $5,000 price tag on the bull, but they don't see the 2,500 to 3,000 in some cases, and in some cases even higher if you got heat calves. Uh, that was already against that bull before he even the gavel dropped and he was sold.
That's a good point on the bull prizes. You don't ever think about that actually. You're just like, holy shit, gotta buy a bull. So let's jump into getting your bull semen tested. How far before breeding season do you do that? And, um, you know, can that test be, or should you maybe do it a couple times, or can you just trust that one test that it's good and that's what that bull's gonna do?
I mean, we do it right before. So right before we turn them out, that's when we'll have them tested. If they test red hot, we'll trust it. Um, if they, we've never had any of our herd bulls test bad. But if like a bull that we're gonna like a virgin bull that we're gonna sell, if they don't test good, we'll test them like maybe a couple more times on different days because they might test bad one day and then a week later you test them again and they test good. But it all depends. But like I mean, if they fail, 2-3 times in a row, then we'll haul them off. But uh, and another thing is with that is like if I buy an expensive, $10,000 bull or higher, or even 8,000 or higher, I immediately get him collected, and it's not for the purpose of selling semen. It's for the purpose of it's an insurance policy. If because that the first thing I do is I get him collected. If I bring him home and he breaks his leg, but I've collected 200 straws of semen on them. I still have the possibility of profiting off of that bull. Um, but and then once he proves himself and he produces good calves, you can start selling semen off of them at that rate.
We like to test ours after after the cold is done, whenever that happens. So normally in March, we normally test ours middle of March, and because there's not after then there's a lot less risk of them getting whatever happens that they're not going to pass. So that's when we test like our sale bulls. That's when we test our herd bulls, and that's going to tell you the tail most of the time for what's going to happen. Yeah, and that's pretty much it.
We test our herd bulls as close to breed up as possible, simply for the fact that you gotta you're out of the cold. If they did get any damage from the cold, they should be healed up by then, and if they're not, yeah, it sucks, but we're also different than a lot of guys. We have a pasture full of 50 yearlings we can go pull a good one out of and say, well, I guess you're a herd bull now for us, and he stayed. Um, our sale bulls, it's really kind of hard for us to test. We could test them in August or even November, right before it starts getting really cold. But between then and sale day, there's 2 months of weather that can be darn cold and darn nasty, and then between sale day and turnout time, there's a lot of weather that can get darn cold and nasty as we're experiencing right now. That can affect the fertility of that bull. If we're shipping the bull out of state, when we get him healthy, he gets tested because just a lot more. It's a lot simpler on that end because even if he's going right across the border into Weebo or even Sydney, you got to get health. You got to find a day that you can get back together with, and it's just simpler to get them tested before they cross state borders. But uh, the way our deal is, it's tough, especially selling the first Thursday in February. I mean, this year, the first Thursday in February, the day before it was 40 degrees, and the day of our sale, it was -5, and then the day after, it was 35 and beautiful. So that's just kind of the hands we've been dealt. And, if if them bulls are taken care of, and, like I tell a lot of guys, at the very least, just dump a fertility tub from Crystal Licks in there, and that'll carry them through. And then not only that, we do collect scrotal measurements as yearlings and as right before the sale, and if they
We
ain't
do that too.
if they ain't hitting a certain scrotal measurement, I mean in March, uh, they get cut. They're not going to be a bull, and just by doing that, you can eliminate a lot of issues within a contemporary.
Matt, I have a question for you. What town are you by?
Killdeer.
Oh, I thought you maybe were closer to me. I knew you had to be in the break, so when he said the Sydney and Weebo, I'm like, maybe he's closer to me than I thought.
Well, I get up to Sydney quite a bit, or not quite a bit, but in the scheme of things, quite a bit. I've got some friends over in Sydney, and seems like I get up there a couple, 2, 3 times a year. One time for sure.
I'll be
But
back real quick.
I, I spend a little over there, and I guess I'm a guy who likes to head west instead of I like having country to look at, not watch dog run away for 10 days.
Yeah, you go too far west, so it gets back flat again. I suppose if you stay along that whatever road that is past Circle and stuff, it's pretty western back in there.
Yeah.
Okay, so we probably have time for one more topic, and it's lease bull programs where people just lease bulls. What are your guys' thoughts on that?
Well, I feel like there's an outfit by us that does a lot, and so here's my 2 cents on it. I do some too, so I'm gonna give you both sides of it. So the outfit by us, and if you look in the beef magazine or whatever, the number one bull producer in the United States, they're by us, and so they're leasing out like 4,000 bulls a year. Um, so now, how are they sourcing these? How are they sourcing these bulls? Is the question. Are they? Do they have 8,000 cows? Are they raising all these bulls? No, they're not. So what's happening is they're buying bulls back from customers, and also they're buying bulls back from people that have black-hided calves. I know personally another producer that just he was delivering bulls this year, and he goes, oh, I sell bulls to this place not too far from us, and then they're in their lease program. He goes, oh, you buy bulls from them? No, I don't, but I sell my bull calves to them. So if you get into the big lease programs that have thousands and thousands of head, you got to kind of wonder, would you be better off going to your neighbor's house and leasing some, and telling him not to cut 10 calves and leasing them from him? Is kind of my thought on it. And we did some last year. I leased out like 20 bulls or something like that. Nothing crazy, just because people want it, because that it is popular, because those guys are right so close to us that they don't have to winter the bulls, they don't have to make sure they semen check, they don't have to all this stuff. So I did lease some out last year, and then I just tricked them, re-semen checked them, and sold them as 18 months in the fall. So I mean, it was fine. Nothing bad happened with it, but I don't see the benefit in it. Obviously, maybe lower cost up front, but like, especially if you're going to some of the smaller production sales, you can buy bulls, use them, and weigh them up for almost what they're getting in a lease fee. So I don't know. It is convenient, but like I said with a lot of things earlier, like a lot in the last live, I said convenient things cost you money. If if you go to a convenience store, it costs you money. What's the quality you're going to get? Uh, I sell seed. One of my biggest seed customers lives right next to there, and you drive past their place going in there, and there's bulls that are giants, there's bulls that are tiny, there's bulls that are big, like look nice, and bulls that are not. So it's, what are you getting any? Are you getting a solid product or not? Um, and that's like when we talked earlier. Like, are you talking to salesmen, or are you talking to people that know their operation? Because if in a place that big, they're not the ones that are doing the actual work. So I don't know. It's leasing is a convenient option, and in situations I can see how people would like it, but I personally don't like it. So the lease cost per season. Well, last year I charged $1,300 for yearling bulls, and that place up close to us, I think that's kind of they're like 13 to. They have older bulls too, so their older bulls are more than that, I think. But and then so basically they're buying calves from people. Some of the people that buy bulls from them, and some are not. They're leasing them out for 2 years, and then they're taking them to Florida, and they got to mark it down for them there because they want older bulls in Florida. Um, is kind of what their program is. So, and obviously it's working for them because they're planning on doubling it in the next 5 years. So I don't know. It seems crazy to me, but people like it.
It it does have its place within the industry. I think if you're just getting started and you might not necessarily have the facilities to hold 2, 3 bulls or how many ever you need for a winter. Um, yes, it makes it simple. Yes, it's convenient, but you know, are you going to be guaranteed the same bulls that you lease every year? Or are you going to get different ones every year? Uh, and then not only that, like Logan talked there, are you actually going to see any genetic benefit, or are you going to have three half brothers, and one's going to be a great big terminal type of bull, one's going to be an itty bitty bull that probably should have had his nuts cut off, and then another good solid cow making bull. There, there's pros and cons to it. Like I said, if you don't necessarily have the facilities to run a bull all winter and then hold them separate in the spring until you're ready to turn out because you're just getting started, it is definitely a good option for you. But as you get stuff built up and set up the way you want, you should plan on at least owning a good portion of your herd bull battery every year. Because not only that, let's say it's $1,300 a year, and you get the same bull every year, and you get to run them for 5 years. Well, right then and there, you could have went and probably bought a bull of the same caliber as a yearling for less money. So there's pros and cons, and you got to sit down and go, what is going to be correct for my operation?
That makes sense. Jonathan, did they do quite a bit of bull leasing down where you're at, or is that not really a thing?
It's not too common, but I don't do it just because it seems like a pain in the ass. But I do have a buddy that lives down the road from me who's also another Beefmaster breeder. He does it, and he does it for around 1,100-1,200 bucks per bull a year. And what he does is if something happens to that bull, whether he gets injured or dies, um, within the contract that he signs with that guy who leases those bulls, if something happens to him, he winds up paying full price for that bull, which is, I don't know, 3,500 bucks or something. Um, but yeah, I mean, he's the only person I know of that will lease bulls out. So it's not too common. Norn Farms Inc. asked, "How do Beefmasters fare in the cold winters?" They do really well. There's Beefmaster breeders up in Idaho. The foundation herd of the Beefmaster breed is they went from Falfurrias, Texas, um, in the 1920s on up to Matheson, Colorado. So they do handle the cold and the snow very well.
Uh,
But
go
go,
ahead.
no, go ahead. I was done.
Okay. I saw that Breaker Bar 007 asked if all of our Hereford bulls that we sell are horned. At this point in time, yes. Um, I have went and bought a few pulled heifers over the years because I feel like we're leaving some money on the table because guys want the convenience and not having to deal with horns if they've got some other blood mixed within their herd, and those Angus cows aren't true Angus and homozygous pulled. But uh, I feel like we're leaving some money on the table there. But as a general rule of thumb, I like my horned Herefords. I think looking at a Hereford bull without a set of horns is weird. Not saying that one side of the breed's better than the other. They both bring good attributes. Uh, we try to make use of the entire genome. We've got Canadian influenced cattle, line one influenced cattle, and we'll go buy a pulled influenced bull as long as he's swinging a set of horns. And we've got customers that won't buy anything but horn bulls, and I actually had a customer tell me he had to sign an affidavit that he used horn bulls on his F1 Baldy heifers, uh, because the guy who buys them F1 Baldy heifers and puts them through his deal. If he finds a heifer with horns, well, he knows that they're not true F1s because there's something else in there, or there might be some Hereford in there in the back, and if they're all uh, hornless, then it's a true F1 cross. Because what a lot of people don't realize is the pulled gene is dominant, and you breed a true Angus cow to a horned Hereford bull, you're not going to get any horns on the calves.
Interesting. Well, we're getting to the end here. We're going to wrap it up. I know Matt already had his bull sale. Logan's is coming up. I don't know if Jonathan has one, but
We have
Logan, oh, go ahead.
we have one next weekend.
Oh, perfect. Do you want to tell us a time or a place or a webpage to go look?
Go to beefmasterbullsale.com, and then go at the bottom of the tab where it says McAlester, Oklahoma. and you can look at the catalog as well as the sale video. It'll be at the McAllister Union Stockyards. I'm pretty sure the sale will start at noon. It's on Saturday, next weekend Saturday. So
Logan, when is yours?
Ours is March 28th, 1 o'clock Central Standard Time. And we do it right on our place, but it's on DV Auction as well. So if you're used to DV Auction, you can go down on March 28th, and all the videos, the catalog, everything are right on there. But
yeah,
yeah,
ours is on DV Auction too.
Perfect. I want to thank you guys for coming on and answering a lot of questions and getting pretty in depth, but keeping everything actually where it's pretty comprehensible. It was a great conversation, and I do appreciate your time.
Yep.
No problem.
thanks
I
for having me.
thoroughly
Yeah.
thanks for having me.
Yeah. Thanks, Matt, for coming up with this idea.
Well, I kind of am kicking myself. I probably should have started doing them videos back in December before we got into the heart of bull sale season, but I know Hereford cattle better, and I didn't want to seem like I was trying to push people on to they have to run Hereford and have to come to our sale. But I feel like this is a relevant topic because a lot of people, they have an identity of their program, but they might be wanting to change what they're wanting to do with their commercial cow calf deal. And and it's always good to get refreshed up on the basics because sometimes, the more complex you make something, it ends up shooting you in the foot in the long run.
Yeah, absolutely. Like we have three different breed guys here, and everybody had good conversations, and really a lot of it kind of commingled about what you're looking for and what you want. And I honestly think just sharing it, people enjoy information, so I would never be afraid to share information like that on
Right.
TikTok or anywhere else.
Yep. And I guess if there's anybody who are thinking they're going to want to run horned Hereford bulls, or our sales on the first Thursday of February every year, you can find the videos on the livestock link, and we actually do live stream it through that service. And you can reach out to me here on TikTok or Facebook or Instagram, or go to our website and find my number and give me a call. I thoroughly enjoy talking about cattle. So
Perfect. Well, I'm gonna shut her down and thank you guys. You have a good evening.
yep,
All
thank you.
right, you too.
Thank you.